All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Minor Obsession. I'm Scott Lieberman with Sean Newton, and this is an exciting episode. Probably the most exciting episode we've had of Minor Obsession. This is the first ever bowl game preview. I will not be in the Bahamas. Sean will be in the Bahamas. Not excited about that, but excited about everything else. I'm sure you're pumped.
You should be excited about that. I mean, one of us has to care enough to make it down there, right? And that one of us is me. So I've got bragging rights probably for life. It's hard to beat being at the first bowl game ever. Even if you're at the next 10 bowl games, I'm not quite sure it outweighs being at the first bowl game ever. But you know what? Maybe I'll bring you a T-shirt. Maybe I'll bring you a little hat home as a congratulatory, hey, glad you got to see this game from your couch hat.
Yeah, and speaking of the couch, of course, we did send out a poll, and, you know, a good portion of Niner Nation is in my camp. I mean, it was divided pretty equally between staying at home and yelling at the TV, which is what I'm going to be doing. There's the official party at Noda Brewing Company. There's obviously the Bahamas, and I don't remember what you put for the fourth choice, but...
Making your own party.
Yeah.
Yeah, and fun fact for those that are home alone like Mr. Scott Lieberman, or those that are making their own party and are going to be watching on ESPN, because we are going to be a centered, nationally televised game, being the first bowl game, kicking off the bowl season. Big time stage, whole country / world's going to be watching. We got a pretty good crew calling it for us too. We've got Steve Levy, Greg McElroy, and Diana Rossini. So pretty happy about that too. They're definitely pulling out some good people for us for those of us that aren't going to be in the stadium watching live and not be able to hear them. You're going to get a good commentary crew going.
I'm a big fan of Steve Levy, ESPN. Classic Sports Center guy. Tell him I said hi. He'll know who I am.
Here's my challenge to the national media and those of us who watch every single game, all the away games on TV, on Watch ESPN. Here's my challenge to Steve Levy, Greg McElroy, and Diana Rossini. Please, 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 you have a week to prepare. Do not show one of our assistant coaches or analysts and say that it's Will Healy while you're talking. I think that happened 2 or 3 different games throughout the season. I get it. He's a young guy. We're a lower program that maybe people haven't heard of, but come on. You've got a week in between games to do your homework. I don't get how people end up putting the wrong guy on TV and talking about, oh, well, you see Will Healy fired up on the sidelines. So challenge to the ESPN crew. Let's get this right.
I think they're going to be okay. He did the Paul Feinbaum show, and he did Jim Rome, and he's really champagning and campaigning, and I think now people have a pretty good idea of what his body without a shirt looks like. So I think they'll be able to figure it out. I think they'll have the proper spotters. It's the first game of bowl season. It's exciting, and I think they're gonna know who Will Healy is. I think the country now knows who Will Healy is.
Let's hope so. I mean, I enjoy him being a good kept secret because we can hold on to him longer. But, man, it just does not feel good sitting at home seeing somebody pretend like they are covering your team and showing the wrong person on TV.
For sure. Well, let's talk about the game. Hopefully you're on your flight to the Bahamas right now. You're in your car driving back to watch the game, or, you know, we're putting this out a little early, so you're just getting yourself hyped up. Maybe you're going to listen to this on replay like me and Sean will, because we enjoy our own voices for a couple times. Get ready. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about Buffalo. Let's talk about the first bowl game ever. Sean, let me start with the line and everything just to set the mood. Right now, we are 6.5-point dogs, so that means Buffalo's favored by just under a touchdown. And the over-under is 58. Pretty consistent with most of our lines for the season. How do you feel about that? Is Vegas disrespecting us?
Yeah, I think it's a little known commodity with a existing head coach. You got Lance Leopold in his fifth season, and you got Will Healy in his first season. You've got Buffalo 7-5 with a 5-3 record in the MAC. You've got Charlotte 7-5 with a 5-3 record in Conference USA. And honestly, I'm not sure what people are seeing. Granted, it's early. People had football to bet on. They had NFL. They had the Army Navy game. They had other things. But now, from this moment forward, all they have to think about is the start of bowl season. The first time that the world sees another FBS level game, it'll be Charlotte versus Buffalo. I expect some heavy bets to start coming in and adjusting that line, and I think you may continue to see the public on Buffalo, but I feel like the wise money, or the sharp money, if you will, is going to be coming in on Charlotte as we get closer to the game, and we might even see that line tick down to 4.5. I'm not sure it'll get to 3 because that's going to take a lot to get it down to a key number like that, but I definitely don't think it's going to make it all the way up to 7, which is another key number that's hard to get off of.
Wow, that was pretty in depth, a little too in depth for me, let alone the listeners.
Hey, that's why you don't win.
Contrary to popular belief, I did pretty good tonight. Anyway, I think it's going to stay around the same. Honestly, I think it's going to hover in that 6.5, 5.5. Maybe it gets to a solid 7 with bad, minus 120 odds. But I don't think it's going to go much over that. I don't think it's really going to go much below that. I think it's going to stick to that. It's an interesting matchup. We've already covered a little bit about 2 of the key contenders to move into the AAC, which is pretty cool. But the other thing is we're both looking for our first bowl win. So obviously this is our first bowl game. This is Buffalo's 4th bowl appearance. Still no bowl wins. So they're looking to make some history for their program as well.
Yeah, second straight one in a row to go to. And I understand why people would be thinking that Buffalo had the edge here. But if you look at it just from a pure statistics standpoint, just offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, and some of the key stats there, I really don't get it. We're offensively putting up the same number of points they are. Granted, defensively, they are faring much better than us, but I think our competition's better. The MAC is not as strong of a conference as Conference USA year in and year out, and especially this year when we've had such difficult competition. We've got 7 or 8 teams bowl eligible in Conference USA, had some really tough games along the way. We played the number 1 team in the country at one point, played a top 25 team that hadn't quite been ranked yet in App State, and still are throwing up those types of numbers. Buffalo's schedule, for the most part, nothing to really talk about. They did take on Penn State for their second game of the season and lost 13-45. But in general, I don't think they've been tested as much as us. And we went from 2-5 to reel off 5 straight. That's pretty tough to do in a good conference with some pretty tough teams you're going up against. And I think all the numbers kind of on the offensive side of the ball weigh slightly in our favor, and on the defensive side of the ball weigh slightly in their favor. And we've come across a few teams like that, and Alex Atkins seems to know what he's doing. The creativity there seems to catch almost all defenses off guard.
Sure. So we're talking high level here. Let's talk about the game. What do you got? What's your score?
Phew. I'm thinking this one is going to be a close one. Most of the Makers Wanted bowls, or previously Popeyes bowls, have been pretty close along the way, and they tend to get similar schools each year given the small size of the stadium and the location, it being in the Bahamas. But I'm thinking this one's going to go down to like a field goal difference with a 31 Buffalo, 34 Charlotte. 4 touchdowns each and a field goal for Buffalo, 2 field goals for us. I think that's the difference maker in the game.
All right, and if you are trusting Sean here, he's got the over 58.
For sure.
And he's got Charlotte covering, and if you want to get real frisky, you can take the money line, which is at like plus 180, plus 190 range. So if you want to follow Sean, it's a great great pick, potentially.
And for any new listeners or people who don't have a great memory, we've done pretty well this season. There's a few times where I've been wrong, but I went on like a 4 or 5 pick streak, including over-unders and picks, where Scott was really rough, and then he did too. So I guess technically it doesn't really help you too much when one of us is always right, and he might be picking something differently, but we'll see. What do you got?
Well, spoiler alert, everyone. Most of the time we pick Charlotte. The one time I didn't pick Charlotte was when the 5-game...
Two times.
It was when the 5-game... Well, one time I was right, and the other time it was when the 5-game winning streak got rolling. And I motivated those guys. You know, I like to take credit for this 5-game winning streak for my pick against them, which makes me almost want to pick against them in this bowl game to really get them fired up and be like, I want to prove Scott wrong. He's not even here. And I want to show him what's up. But
let me make you a deal before you throw out your number. So I'm going to go around to every player on the Charlotte football team while I'm down there and say, hey, there's an armchair quarterback in Charlotte who is watching on his couch right now, who picked against you guys because he thinks it's going to motivate you. Does that motivate you anymore that some guy named Scott Lieberman picked against you? Let's see how many yeses I get.
You probably get a lot because, you know, I'm like I said, I'm bulletin board material, and that's what I try to provide. You know, I know Chris Reynolds opens his locker every day, and he's like, Scott Lieberman, he believes in me. I got this. So, anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted, obviously I'm going to pick Charlotte. And I think it's going to be a defensive battle from the Charlotte 49ers perspective. I got a blowout. I think Charlotte wins 31-14. That makes it 55 total points, or 45 if I could do math. And way under. Charlotte covers. Charlotte money line. I think you're at a really boring, great win for the 49ers.
I'm totally cool with that. I could be down for seeing just a blowout. I mean, in a bowl game, is there anything boring about a blowout? Like, I'll be doing backflips in the stands if I have to in between plays.
Sure. As long as it's a blowout in our favor, it's all good. So with that, let's talk about who to look out for, why it's going to be X. And, you know, I'll start with the offensive side of the ball. As I alluded to, the man I picked all season when we were arguing about who's our real quarterback, I'm going to take my credit here while I can, since you're actually going to the bowl game, and I'm not going to have much street cred after this. Chris Reynolds, I've been talking about Chris Reynolds since training camp when I watched him doing drills and things before the season even started during media day. And it looked like we were going to have the two-headed monster until week 2 when we played App, and Chris Reynolds really solidified himself. And let's talk about Chris Reynolds over these last 5 games, the 5-game winning streak. He's really been the heartbeat because obviously Benny LeMay, who's another key part of our offense, has been on and off with injuries, and it's really been the Chris Reynolds show. He's, over the 5 games, thrown 9 touchdowns and thrown for 1,200 yards, which is 240 yards per game. And then he's rushed for 531 yards, a little over 100 yards per game with 3 TDs. And he's completed 66% of his passes, playing like a freaking monster. What I really like about that, the total there, if you didn't do the math with me, 349 yards of total offense for Chris Reynolds over the last 5 games. Got to emphasize that 49. I think we see a lot of the same from Chris Reynolds in this game. I'm calling for 400 yards total offense, maybe more than that from Chris Reynolds. 3 to 4 TDs, whether it's rushing or passing. I think he has a big game and really solidifies this unbelievable sophomore season and gets us really excited to see him for another 2 years at Charlotte.
I'm happy with that. I am so happy that you were right. I have no problem saying I was wrong picking Brett Keane at the beginning of the season. I love that you were right because Chris Reynolds has turned out to be such a, I don't want to call him a diamond in the rough, but just a diamond. I mean, he has exceeded all of our expectations throughout the season, I think, and he brings that unique perspective that you don't get in every quarterback. He's got that ability. He is part of the reason that Alex Atkins can call the creative offense that he can, because you've got the RPO all the time where he could be handing off to a running back, or he could be taking off running, or he could take off towards the line like he's running and then throw it at the last second because he's pulled the linebacker up and left a wide receiver wide open. I love it. I like your pick. I'm going to give our other main man some credit. You know, he's missed a few games this year, but Benny LeMay is going out as a senior to this bowl game. He's been with the school for a while and watched the school climb to its new height now as our first bowl game ever. And I think he's probably a big reason why the early line is the way it is. Buffalo's got a good rushing attack. They're ninth in the country for rushing offense, and we're sitting at 24th in the country. But Benny LeMay missed a few games. He had ankle sprain, I believe it was, that he was dealing with there, and I think that has caused some of the hype to go away from him, and I don't necessarily think that's warranted. When he's out there, I'm not sure I would take hardly any running back in college football over him. Maybe one or two, but he's definitely close to top 10 if he played this entire season. I'm looking for him to show that this game and really prove on a national stage why he deserves to be considered one of the best backs in college football right now.
I like it. I think it'll be really interesting, and I think that's definitely a key matchup for everyone to look out for, is the rushing attack on both sides, because we're both very good at rushing. We've got Benny LeMay, Earth, Wind, and Fire with McAllister and
Ishot
Finger. Thank you very much. But they have a two-headed monster that's really good just to watch out for. Jarrett Patterson has 17 rushing touchdowns and over 1,600 yards rushing so far this season. And then Kevin Marks also has over 1,000 yards rushing this season. So they're looking to get 3,000 yards rushing as a combo for the season, which is pretty impressive. So something to just look out for. I think Benny LeMay and squad versus them, that'll really be a key stat to look at for the, at the end of the game, who dominated the line of scrimmage.
I agree. Before we move on to the defense too, the other interesting point here is, so they do have the edge in rushing offense with that two-headed monster you're talking about, but passing, really not much to speak of. They're 121st in passing offense in the country, 97th in passing efficiency. Compare that to Charlotte's 34th in the country in passing efficiency. And their quarterback's only thrown for 1,100 yards on the season, 7 TDs. Granted, don't have to do a ton with rushing attack like they have, but compare that to Chris Reynolds' season stats of 2,300, 21 TDs, 197 yards per game. Our receivers are obviously what?
I just want to say they're on their backup quarterback, so their starting quarterback suffered a neck injury earlier in the season. And
yeah, I don't care. It's who's there, right?
Totally. I'm just letting you know that the stats can be somewhat deceiving, but yes,
that's fine. I'm cool with that. Whatever gives us the edge, I'm still giving it to us on the passing attack.
Sure. I mean, I picked Chris Reynolds. I'm all about it. And you're right. I know I'm stealing your thunder, but you're starting to get in there. Tucker and Cameron Dollar, and you got some guys ready to make some plays and be a part of the Chris Reynolds mania, baby.
Yeah. Yep. Their wide receivers to keep an eye on would be Daniel Lee's their second wide receiver, and their first wide receiver, Antonio Noon. But nowhere close to Cameron Dollar and Victor Tucker in my mind. And the stats kind of show that too. They're lacking on touchdowns, lacking on total yards. And so I really think this is going to boil down to, can we contain that run?
Yeah, 100%. If their wide receivers are making plays, I don't think that's going to happen. And B, that means we're probably dominating if they're throwing the ball that much. So let's hope that those guys are putting up stats because that means we're winning pretty well. So let's switch to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, you have a little bit less confidence with your prediction of way over 55 or 58. So who should we look out for?
So in my mind, there's one guy on the field. Well, there's a very obvious candidate to look out for, but I'm not going to pick him because, he does what he does every week and second in the country in sacks. Cough, cough, you know who I'm talking about. But I'm going to take the other big senior on the field, Jeff Gimmel, linebacker. He's held it up for that core defense there, has really been a great leader out there, battled through some injuries through the season. We talked to him a week or two ago. You got to hear him talk about what this season meant and how great it feels to go to this bowl game, be eligible for a bowl, and finish the season strong. They've done all of that. He just got a huge career milestone for tackles, and I'm looking for him to build on that and really end on a high there and really make his presence known, stopping that run, ensuring that any passing attempts they do get are well guarded, and he's got the secondary firing on all cylinders behind him. I think it all starts in the middle, though, so you know who I'm going with, Jeff Gimmel.
Jeff Gimmel. All right. Fair. I always like a friend of the pod, someone that's been on here and has talked to us, so I appreciate your pick. I think he will have some good stats because he'll be making tackles and doing his thing. But I know you alluded to Alex Highsmith, cough, cough, second in the nation in sacks, also cough, cough, fourth in the nation in tackles for loss. So he's really doing his thing. I pick him every week because he's awesome. But I'm going to spread the love a little bit and take the whole defensive line because why not? I think Alex should have a good game and hopefully a sack or two, but we'll see. I'm sure Buffalo's offensive line will focus on him, which will give Marquise Watts, who had 9.5 sacks for the season, no slouch on his end, an opportunity to make some plays as well. Don't forget the big guys in the center. I think we get 3 to 5 sacks from our defensive line in this game, and that's why we hold them to such a low number scoring because, A, we take the lead, they are forced to pass, we get some sacks, but I also think the defensive line dominates and really stops the run. They're averaging, I think, 250, 260 yards per game. I look for them to rush for under 150 yards for the game, which sounds like it's still a lot, but it's a huge momentum shifter to keep them like that, and I think they're forced to throw the ball a lot more than they would like.
Yeah, agreed. So a few things there. Alex Highsmith, everybody I think is going to be watching him. So appreciate you spreading the love a little bit. He's listed as one of the key matchups to watch in all of bowl season. See how he does against that Buffalo offensive line, see how many times he gets home. And I think he can really improve his draft stock. I mean, we've got to be talking about potentially highest drafted Charlotte 49er ever. Defensive ends tend to go early and often in the draft. So really huge chance for him to set himself up for success coming up to the combine. You also said, don't forget about the big man in the middle. Let's not forget to say their names real quick. Tommy Doctor, senior, this is his last game too, so looking for big stuff there. And Timmy Horn, Jr. up front, who've been doing big things all season. And then the other thing I'll say is too, we've talked a few times about Alex Atkins and the creativity there. Marcus West, his number one focus is sacks. He spells it with a $sign. And he told that defensive line, trust in me. I was a defensive lineman myself. I know what I'm doing. I was in the NFL. I was in the Canadian Football League. I was over in Europe. I know what's up, and it's really worked. I think Alex, if you asked him, he'd probably give some credit to Marcus West and the plays he's calling up to allow him to get home to that quarterback.
Gotta love that NASCAR package, as the New York Giants like to call it. And I dropped on Marcus back when we interviewed him
years ago.
But yeah, great call out, Tommy Doctor. We recruited him out of Buffalo, New York, Grand Island High School. So should be interesting for him. I'm sure he's a closet Buffalo guy and wants to really put on a show, since a lot of people from his hometown are probably going to be watching this game, supporting Buffalo. So good for him. Also, Alex Highsmith, I know we're giving him a lot of love, but third-team AP All-American. Don't forget that.
That was
First
cool.
AP All-American in football history at our program. So, yeah, I think he's going to be a key. I'm sure they're going to talk about him a lot on ESPN. Hopefully he delivers. And then I expect to see him in the Senior Bowl. Hopefully he has a good showing there, does a good combine. And, yeah, hopefully he's our first, second round, or even first round draft pick. You never know. Larry set the bar high, though, as the first overall third round pick. So he's got to get in the second round or he's not our highest draft pick. But Cameron Clark, Benny LeMay, they all have – potential opportunity at the next level, and I'm rooting for all of them. But obviously, Alex has the highest ceiling at the moment.
Yeah, and the All-American, huge, the AP third team, and the only thing I'm wondering is I hope the AP calls 3-4 defenses because he's second in the nation in sacks, fourth in tackles for losses. Somehow he ends up on the third team. What's up with that? Like, they got to be running a 3-4 where, well, that still gives you, 2 options per team. So I'm wondering who those other 6 people ahead of them are, or 5 people ahead of them to make them third team. But I'll be happy with what we get.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it. I'm not going to complain. I'm glad we got recognized in any capacity. And, he's just setting the stage for future great players that, hey, we're a real team. We've got real good athletes coming out of here. And finally, like you said, defensive end is more of a sexy position. I love Larry Ogunjobi and everyone else that's come out, but offensive linemen, defensive tackles aren't, necessarily the stat stuffers, while a defensive end is. It'll be cool to see him in the NFL, and hopefully he goes to a team that we like and not someone like the Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, the other interesting point, too, to keep in mind, all this excitement's going on, and we have signing day. And the draft class that Healy and team have put together is just insane. So I'm really excited to start talking about all those great players coming in next season once we finish up with this awesome bowl game.
Yeah. So we talked about the game. We both have Charlotte. I've got the under. Sean's got the over. We feel good about it. Sean's going to the Bahamas. I am not. One last thing I want to touch on, because it's kind of been in the news a little bit, is Coach Healy. It looks like we're keeping him. It was a little bit of nervousness, like, already with a great season, and he might be one and done, like the dude in App. I always forget his name. I just call him by your nickname, Dorkowitz. Yeah.
His name's Eli Drinkowitz.
Yeah. So he left for Missouri, one of the rumored jobs that Will Healy may have not been interviewing for or been on a list for. And then obviously Lane Kiffin within Conference USA left for Ole Miss. Looks like we've weathered the storm, and Will Healy's going to be here for next year. And hopefully a couple more years. Again, just something to keep on your radar. I hope he doesn't leave, but I understand it's a business, and it's a good problem to have. I'd rather have coaches that are getting poached than not, and have coaches here for a long time and never win. So winning is good, but winning also creates things like that. I have all the faith in the world in Mike Hill to do everything he can to keep Will Healy or to find an excellent replacement, but just so you know, we're starting to become a very desirable spot that people are looking at. I'm hoping Will stays here for as long as we can keep him, builds that stadium up as promised, and turns us into UCF-esque Power 6 school.
Yeah, and we are actually finalizing a long-term deal with him right now. We started negotiating that apparently when we were 2-5, and since then, when you rattle off 5 wins in a row and take us to our first bowl game ever, the numbers drastically change. So it looks like that deal is all but done right now, which is exciting. And then, I think it's going to take a special type of offer to get him away. We've got a little more sales pitch to us than App does. I know all the App State fans out there like to brag and say they've got football history, but you've got like 80 years of FCS level football, so is it really history? I mean, let's be real. And I think the past 3 years have proven that if nothing else, when a coach is successful in App, the first thing he does is get out of App. But I did really appreciate Eli Drinkowitz's press conference where he opened up as the first time he spoke to the Missouri fan base and said he wanted to win a Sun Belt title as the first thing he did.
Well,
I thought that was hilarious.
Well, the best part was if you saw it, they played the side by side of the app press conference and the Missouri one, and he used the exact same speech he used about integrity and academic excellence. And it seems like he's copying his own paper over again. So
what do you do, right? Like with somebody like that, you're clearly just chasing the job. There's no passion there. I think we saw that, and I don't want to speak ill. He's clearly a solid coach. He took them to a good season this year, and you got to do what you got to do. If I had $1 million thrown at me, I'm sure I would take it too. But there's just something special about somebody like Coach Healy, who you can tell in his speech, it's not just, hey, I'm a smart guy and I know how to coach football. There's the passion there that brings people along for the ride. And I think that's what's given the fans something extra to root for this year, the players something extra to play for, and probably had us perform a little better than we should and a little better than everybody else thought we should. And you don't get that every day. It's like a good leader in business, You want to go work for them.
Yeah, and you can tell that by the staff he's assembled, all these people following him that were in Power 5 jobs or worked with him in the past. And hopefully, we talk about Will leaving. Hopefully we could keep everyone else around for at least another season as well, because I think they all are really demonstrating excellent leadership on the offensive defensive side with Alex, Marcus, and the rest of the crew. So I know we have run for a while. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Follow us on all the social medias. Sean will be posting content from the Bahamas potentially if he can figure out how to make that work.
I'm not sure if they have internet there. I think they do, but we'll see.
So Sean's going to try his best to get some interviews and whatnot. He'll be at all the parties. Say hi to him. He'll have a Minor Obsession hat on. It's gray and green, working on getting some more of those to spread the love. Looking for some W's. We expect to win here. First bowl game. We hope you all enjoy it. If you're not going to be at the Bahamas, enjoy watching on TV, going to a party. But we're all part of this same journey. Gold standard. It's wonderful that it's happened so quick, and we're excited to be a part of it. And we thank Will Healy, Mike Hill, and the whole program for just what a turnaround. It's you would have never expected it where we were and where we are right now. It's just unbelievable. We've been doing Minor Obsession for just a little over a year, and man, it has changed. It's quickly.
A big change, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and just remember, we were here when it wasn't good, and now we're here when it is. So keep listening to us, the number one podcast for the 49ers. Sean, anything else to say? I hope you enjoy your trip. Like you alluded to, please bring me home a shirt or a hat.
We'll see. I'm not sure you deserve one. That was a pretty good monologue, though. It was a good summary of how I feel. And, I mean, just candidly, I think the best way to put it is it's just nice not to have people laugh when I spend my time watching Charlotte football games now. Like it's respectable and not just a joke to go spend your Saturday watching the Charlotte team, which I never thought it was. But, you get all those too big for their britches State fans or App fans or whatever. Now the laughing's over. State's at home on their couch. App State's playing for, winning the Sun Belt, but still having to play Conference USA runner-up. And you got Charlotte living life in their first bowl game ever, super happy, the best outcome of the season, could not be happier, and love what we're putting on the field and hopefully come out with a W this week too.
Well, you heard it here first. Charlotte 49ers are going to win. They're going to win the first bowl game of the season, and Club Lit is going to be real lit because Sean's definitely crashing that somehow.
Oh yeah, if Club Lit's open for business, I'll be there. You can bet your money on that. I'm going to find a way in for sure.
Well, good luck with that. We hope everyone enjoys the game. Should be fun, and we'll be back with you soon after at some point to talk about that and everything else that's going on. Good holiday season right now. Men's basketball's got a winning record. Women's basketball's got a winning record, and men's football's in a bowl game.
Let's go.
Let's go. So remember, as always, to wear green
and go Niners.